All right, guys, happy Monday, my favorite day of the week, and I have a very special guest in the studio today. Flew all the way from Iowa, Austin Nelson. Man, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Austin has, guys, amazing story. We just did a full interview. We're not gonna repeat a lot of questions or content that we shot for Roofing Insights channel, but Austin has one of those crazy stories, just a life journey that I want you to hear. I know a lot of you guys will relate to it because you guys are in the trades, you're working hard, you're moving from labor to management. And I don't know who needs to hear this message, but I promise you there's going to be something for everyone. Austin also, his company, 33 Carpenters, sued State Farm, and we actually shared the clip a couple months ago from the courtroom, and it was a very interesting case. Unfortunately, they lost, and we're definitely going to talk about that as well. But I want to start with the journey from the someone who we call Chuck in a truck type of contractor, the guy who does it all with his hands. Um, very low overhead, cheapest bid among all the bids homeowners will get. How do you go from being that guy to running number one company in your town? Because Austin, 33 Carpenters became a leader with a 10 million plus in sales. So solid company. But the journey started where you and your buddy was working with your hands. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we never set out to run a roofing business. We needed we needed to feed our families. We needed to. Uh, it was a construction company that it had to have uh, a broad spectrum of opportunities when we got started. Um, but roofing is a very simple. You know, most most men can remember um, working on a birdhouse or a doghouse or something with their dad, roofing it, putting a roof on it. It's of all of the construction trades, it's one of the simpler things to do. It's very hard work, but the concepts are easy, and you start at the bottom and work your way up, and one goes on top of the other. Um, and so um,
Ryan Jackson just called you the lawsuit guy. So you have a lawsuit guy title now. Guys, comment below, like this video if you've been in the trades. I want to know how many people in the audience actually work in the trades, install shingles with their hands, and what's your experience? I want to learn from you. So you started, how did you start in roofing? It was what year was 2007?
2007. Yeah, before that, I was working in for a mission, a mission. That's what it is. It's not a company. It is a nonprofit organization that was helping people in the Gulf Coast after Hurricane Katrina. The group was called CORE, Christian Organized Relief or Recovery Effort. Um, and before that, I was, a broken, drunk, just a young guy working for beer money, and really, um, in a really bad place. So I went to Mississippi. I got involved in a church called Victory Full Gospel, um, and I met some great people who prayed for me and wanted to see me do better and like help me along to get to a place to where um, I could do something. And so then we moved back to Iowa and started just doing construction. And ultimately, there was an opportunity to do some roofing. Um, I
You were doing it all. You were selling jobs. You were doing them. How much you were charging? You told me earlier you were charging
Yeah,
185 a square.
185 a square
2007.
in 2007.
Even in 2007, 185 was cheap.
Super cheap.
Like how much was your competition? Like your competition probably hated you.
I
What was
think it
going rate?
it was not probably 200, maybe a little bit more than that. In an ultra competitive market. I mean, at the same time, there's a lot of different ways to do this business. I know that at that time that there were um, retail companies selling finance deals for 500 or more dollars per square at that time. Walk, get the appointment, go meet with the prospect, with the potential customer, right? Sit there for 4 hours, don't leave their house until they sign something, right? So 185 was definitely the
Cheaper.
oh yeah, way cheaper. And I mean, I didn't have any overhead, I didn't have any expenses, but I also um, didn't understand profit, and I didn't, you know, there's that could not have gone on for long.
I do want to address something because right around the same time, I actually went in business myself. 2008, 2008, 2009, 7, 8, 9 was my first year. So I was branching off for myself. And I remember those days. Economy collapsed in 2009. And I got a lot of heat from my peers. Before that, I was making 20, 25 bucks an hour working, for general contractors and stuff like that. So hourly job. At the top, I was making 25 bucks an hour. And the going rate for floors, my first trade was about $1.50 per square. And I started my flooring company and I was charging dollar a foot. So I was like you, I was 30% cheaper. And people were just hating on me like Dmitry, you're ruining our prices and this and that. And I was making 60, 70 bucks an hour. I would make on average $500 a day. So my message to those guys who maybe in our positions, 15 years ago, you have a family to support, you have your bills to pay. Those people who criticize you, they don't know. In Russia, we have the saying in Russia: "There's no shame in poverty." Like if you poor, there's no shame in it. Like everybody can become poor. Everybody can become, homeless. If our economy will crash, if you look at what happened in 29, 30, like Great Depression, how many people went on the streets? Like everybody who like who is making good living now, they can lose everything in a heartbeat. And that's what's happening in 2009. And I remember my supplier of floors was coming to my office and he's like, Misha, you're doing so well. And I was cheap guy, but I was working hard because I have my health. I could speed. It was my sport. And she was saying like, Misha, I've seen so many guys went out of business, but they would not lower their price. So I did not know how to sell job for a profit, but I was building my reputation. And it was a journey to go from $1 to $1.50 to $2 to, I mean, in today's economy, I would be making $1,500, $2,000 a day, any given day. And by the way, if you're not making good money today, you're doing something completely wrong. You guys have to figure it out. The economy is so good. If you're working with your hands, if you're working for builders, for other contractors, even if you're B2B, you still can be very profitable. You can make good money. But take me back to 185. When did you start charging more, and what happened? Because now you're a big company, and a lot of guys out there, they don't understand the journey. What have to happen mentally? Like, is it a mental shift to go from physical labor to running a business, or is it just luck? Somebody came to you and showed you the way. I mean, what was the journey look like?
Um, well, for us, I think it's everything that you just said. First of all, it's timing. It's which is always involves a little piece of luck, but um, it's also confidence. It's also desperation, right? It's also um, I think that it doesn't take long to um, it doesn't take long installing roofs before you like I mean you have that serious conversation with yourself, like, do I really want to, how long do I really want
Am,
to do this?
am I immortal?
Right.
How long
Right.
will I last?
Right. And I mean, um and it just seems like at some points, I mean, I think that probably what you're talking about, 65 bucks an hour or something like that, sounds really close to about probably what we were making, which is way better than 20. Right.
25 or paying
Right.
per bundle of stuff. So there's no shame in it. Like those who blaming truck and trucks, and I've done it too. I mean, if you're a good truck and truck, if you stand behind your warranty, there's nothing wrong with it. The problem with the trucks and trucks is sometimes they're so cheap that they don't have money to come back. I mean, if you charge, if you make 500, 600 bucks a day and you get a call to come back to fix your repair, you actually have money. But when you're making, I see guys making $150 a day, if you're making minimum wage, you cannot honor any warranty. Period.
Right.
So it's one thing to be cheaper, but another thing to be broke. Like, don't be broke. That's, I think, a definition. So how did you get in a?
Working your butt off as a chuck in a truck is the best marketing dollars you'll ever spend.
Mhm.
It's the absolute cheapest way to grow your reputation when you're doing your own work. Like that is the best.
But
There's
you have to take advantage of it. You have to get those reviews.
right.
You have to get those referrals. A lot of guys, they just don't do it. They don't ask for it. They I mean, I've done in 3 months I had 35 online reviews for my flooring company, and then in 6 months I was running 6 crews.
Right.
You can grow it fast, but I see guys who spent all their life in that mode.
Right.
So how did you learn insurance restoration?
I went down and worked for a friend, Brad Miller, in Tennessee. He was working a storm that had happened in the Nashville area in 2010, and I went down and worked for him in Clarksville. I knew roofing. I knew how to put it down. I knew the warranties. I knew, the organic shingle um, issue that everybody
Certainty.
had. Certainty made it famous, but everybody that made shingles back then had an organic shingle. Owens Corning. Some people went out of business and didn't honor their warranty. Some people stayed in business and did honor their warranty, and that's what Certainty did. And so I was able to provide some value add opportunities with some homeowners associations and apartment complex owners through that warranty money that was available because of the organics. I knew roofing very well. I was in a really good place um, to continue to advance, and so I went and worked for, like I said, Brad and his wife Kelly in Tennessee, and Brad said to me, you know, tell them that you will do the approved work for the insurance proceeds. And it was a concept that didn't make any sense to me at the time. And I sincerely doubted that there would be any success in saying in that or getting a person to agree to do work for an amount of money that was not written down. It's
For
an idea.
insurance proceeds, you didn't believe it's gonna work.
No, it's an idea or a concept, and I thought that the concept and idea was dumb. Um, but I did pretty well. Signed a bunch of deals there. End up um, coming back to Iowa because I won a large commercial project in my hometown. Helped them get some insurance money that, if that had happened 6 months earlier, that commercial project, um, I wouldn't have been able to secure any funding for them or help them to secure it. Um, and so, I took the monies that I made from that large commercial project, um, hired some sales staff, bought 3 or 4 trucks, a truck for every person that I hired to do sales for, and we started knocking on doors and um, selling insurance work.
What's the biggest difference in mindset in operation? How would you explain to people out there who maybe don't understand it? I see a lot of guys, they look at the storm chasers, they look at the restoration contractors, they don't get it, they don't comprehend it, because there's a learning curve, there's a little bit of hate, because a lot of storm chasers only come to their towns after hailstorm. So there's always like local guy versus storm chaser guy. What's the mindset? What advice would you give to someone who doesn't understand insurance restoration work? Because it's 99% of your business right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what advice would you give someone who is just looking into it, maybe trying to understand it, but have never done it before?
um, it's a ton of work, I would say. Um, if you can be profitable, 35 to 50% profitable on retail, I wouldn't even consider it. There's a there's a ton of extra work that goes into um, working with people through an insurance claim. They need a lot of help. There is a space, there is a need in that space for people that are good and have integrity and want to do good work, um, and are are you got to have a lot of patience too, because it takes a good amount of time to get paid in full from the insurance company. Um, I would do work in Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana, and the laws are different in each of those states. And so I think another thing that a person needs to be prepared for is finding out what the laws and limitations are where they work, and then also, you know, use the law to your maximum benefit. Understand that the insurance companies absolutely use the law to their maximum benefit. Like,
And we're gonna learn about it in a second, guys. We're getting down to it. Not wasting your time. Just wanted you to get to know Austin a little bit first. So let's get down to the story. Right?
okay,
You sued State Farm. You lost to State Farm, and it
yes.
hurts. And it cost you at least $15 million last year alone of business. So I want to hear your story from start to finish, guys. If you like the story, give it a like. Support Austin. I promise you this. It's not easy. It takes some balls to go after insurance company. This man have seen it all, and he needs some support. And we're giving him our platform to show his side of the story because insurance company will make you look very bad, especially if that's what happened. For those of you who don't know, if you lose to insurance company, they will write the press release. They will try to portray you as the worst person ever lived on earth, as a bad guy. They will try to demolish you any way they can. And, you know, Austin here is a good contractor. You'll hear his story, but let's get down all the way to the beginning. Tell me how you got the job and tell me why you decided to sue insurance company uh, at the end.
Yeah, so I had a man by the name of Matt Shepard that worked for me. He was an awesome salesman. Um, there was a storm that happened on March 15th, 2016. Uh, it was very close to my home. It was in our hometown, and someone called into the office in this neighborhood. And Matt went out to the neighborhood, did an inspection, determined that there was damage caused by hail. Someone in the neighborhood signed an agreement, an insurance proceeds agreement. 33 Carpenters will do the approved work for the insurance proceeds, and we ended up doing a bunch of work in that neighborhood. At some point in time, the Clausens, who are State Farm customers, um, our representative Matt Shepard knocked on the door at the Clausen home. Um, when the Clausens had returned from spring break, which was where they were at during, at the time of the storm, they noticed that there was shingles missing from their roof, that there was an issue, and had questioned one another whether they should call someone or not. Well, we were already in the neighborhood, and um, so our rep knocked on the door before they called us. But he did an inspection for them, found damage. I'm sure that the conversation went like this: "Hi, I'm Matt. Has anybody looked at your roof yet?" And I'm sure they said, "Well, no, but you know what? We were gone when the storm happened, and we had noticed something. Could you go up there and take a look?" It's interesting how lawyers craft questions, because in the court documents, in my case against State Farm, it says that my rep approached them uninvited and made them aware of damage to their home. They paint a picture of how things happen that is completely inaccurate.
But
Ultimately,
but damage is damage. Whether you knock at their door or they call you, what difference does it make?
100%. I
But
mean,
it's how you paint the story. So they they paint a better story at this time.
they always paint a better story because they have people that they hire to pay to tell the stories. Like, we are roofers, we're not storytellers. Okay,
We should be
we
storytellers.
should be storytellers, and you know what? In the world that we live in, we're getting better at telling our story, and with the help of your platform and people like you.
That's why we say, guys, you have to become a media company first. Every business is a media company. It's your word against their word, and when you face someone in court, documentation matters. How you present yourself matters. So they say that. So there was a problem that you approached them or your company approached them. Like, how did they argue in court that it was a problem? Because it was unsolicited, or because they were
It
trying
was
to.
a bunch. It was several things. So the UPPA, um, the insurance companies and UPPA have crafted laws that ultimately work to the benefit of the insurance company. It's interesting when the assignment of benefit thing in Florida, assignment of AOC, AOB
Mm-hmm.
thing in Florida, you know, there's a lot of blogs and information that's, it's the unscrupulous contractors that are responsible for the increase of premiums. Well, the increase of premium is a direct result of claims. Claims are a direct result of a hurricane, Irma and Michael,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, that's if you want to get right down to it, the cost, the increase in cost of insurance is always related to claims,
Claims.
and and I think that the nature of business is to villainize someone, and so it shouldn't be, but I think that
And it always well, I was fascinated by numbers. If you look at so he sued State Farm. Let's look at State Farm. State Farm collects $65 billion in claims per year. How much you guys think they actually pay out in claims? Do you know? Does anybody know? Comment below if you know. What would you guess? 65 billion collects in claims. Then they trying to paint this picture that the reason premiums keeps going up because contractors are keep increasing, like their claims unreasonably, like negative is unreasonably because their offer is always reasonable, right? So they spent 1.5 billion dollars in marketing. How much do you think they spend on claims?
oh,
Yes,
I don't know, 5 billion.
5 billion most. 5 billion. What happened to 60? So you telling me that we're the problem. You only paid out 5 billion, and if we increase that number, like let's say there's a 20%. I mean, it would be ridiculous to say 20. Let's say it's 10%. I mean, that's $500 million out of 65 billion. Did we really? So now you're telling me the next year you need to increase it even more. If you look at the Allstate or State Farm shareholders letters, it has nothing to do with the claims. They report back to the shareholders, hey, here's what we did with your money. In case of Allstate, it's like $35 billion. In case of State Farm, it's $65 billion. So they tell their shareholders that their operating expenses of $5 billion. They put 3 billion here, five here, 10 here. They did all these great things for them. You will not even find how much they paid out. It's not even in the report. Like it doesn't matter. I mean, think about it. It's unthinkable. Like you read that report and it's all like profit, 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 but then they tell us that we are the problem when we're asking for a little bit extra. By the way, great argument about overhead and profit. If you look at any shareholder letter from insurance companies, their profit also like 3 4 billion dollars, like 10% usually from there, so they can have 10% uh, overhead and
Yeah,
profit. We can't. We are immoral, uh, it's almost like illegal to ask for that. So let's get back to our claim. So you knock at the door, and in the
he signs a series of documents. One is the agreement saying we're going to do the work, the approved work for the insurance proceeds. Um, the and another one is a cancellation. Every state has you can't trick someone into signing a contract. You got to make them very well aware that there's a legal opportunity to cancel their contract with no penalty. And then we also at the time were using a document called an insurance contingency, which had some language in there that was um, it was designed to let the customer know that we were going to identify all of the damages on the property, um, in conjunction with some language on our website. You know, um, our website had a 6-step process for how to file an insurance claim. There's nothing there's nothing explicitly wrong with that, except for on our insurance contingency form, it said that we would work together with the insurance company to identify the property damage adjustments. And
and the word
the
adjustment.
word adjustment was taken to mean that we were adjusting the claim, although no one ever, the State Farm certainly never treated us like we had any powers of an adjuster. No checks were um, were made were made that way. In with respect to that, um, the at the time, our 33 carpenters in 2014 hired 3 public adjusters and were employed with us until 2017. Um, so like we were absolutely able to advertise that our website advertisement, right? 6 steps to file a claim. We were able to do that. We were able to have an insurance contingency that said the thing about adjusting. Um, there were it because these adjusters were not licensed in the state of Iowa. We were we should have been afforded protections with our internet advertising,
Hmm.
but not with anything that we gave in paper to someone. It's a it's a it's a it was a
It's an honest mistake, but and it's not. It did not make you public adjuster in reality, but they definitely um, used it against you and later caused you really big problems.
yeah. I mean the
Here's what happened. Here's the craziest part of the entire story. Talk to me about cease and desist letter.
Oh yeah, so the Supreme Court issues their ruling saying that 33 Carpenters Construction acted as a public adjuster with a license without a license, and that our assignment contract was void. Okay, which caused the loss of a bunch of business that we had pending from 2016 to 2020. Which
Because management would look at it and say, "Hey, cease and desist sounds like serious stuff," and people are skeptical.
first of all, when they voided our assignment of claim, they avoided our standing in our projects. So that was 16 to 20 business, a big question mark over the top of it. Now, February 14th, 2020, that's when the Supreme Court issues their ruling. March of 2020, the beginning of coronavirus happens really super seriously. Schools, everything's shut down.
Hmm.
People are um, uh, locked down in some cases, uh, and glued to their phones, their iPads, their televisions, right? Um, April 7th, in my hometown of Bettendorf, Iowa, we have a massive hailstorm. It rained 2.1-inch hail at my shop for 18 minutes. Um, that's like 2.1 inch. That's
Wow,
like that's egg
that's like
size hail. It's good hail,
once in a century.
right? It's not very often that that happens. And so um, we talked to the news about, even though coronavirus was really happening, and employment situation was um, in peril for a lot of people. People that do what we do, we're hiring. We were essential,
So,
and
so you went to a media company and you wanted to advertise and tell people you're hiring.
I wanted to tell them, hey, listen, I wanted it's amazing. Everybody was all coronavirus, everything, and then this hailstorm hits, and it was like nothing happened. People were like, we got to get our house fixed, we got to do this, we got to do that, and everywhere that I had a hailstorm last year, or a hurricane or a major event, everyone that I talked to said the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah, life was on hold until something big happened, and then we got back after it. So, um, so that happened. Within a few days of having gone on the news to let the community know that we were looking and ready to help, and really the message was more than anything just a message of goodwill, a public service announcement. But
Well, I'll interrupt you really quick. Let's read this comment. Aaron Osdell says, I operate in Iowa and am very aware about UPPA because of what happened to you. So people know who you are, and people definitely read the story. It's almost like a case study. And one of the things I want you guys to know that nothing gets to the news if you if somebody don't tell the news. It's usually press release, it's public information, not just a court document. Like news would not take a court document like that and just say, hey, let's air it. Like usually it's insurance companies who are pushing you. It's almost the same advice that I can give you about your reviews. For those of you who are not pushing for reviews, uh, let me break it down to you. Bad reviews are just coming your way. They just coming your way whether you ask for them or not. Now, If you don't ask for good reviews, that better review will come in. If you have 5 reviews and you have 2 bad ones, now you're a 3-star contractor. Now, if you ask all of your good clients to give you 5-star review and you have 100 of them and you have 2 reviews, you're still 4.8, 4.9. The same thing goes in these fights, with the legal fights. Insurance companies, bad contractors, your complaints, every once in a while you'll get it. But if you're not proactively protecting yourself, if you're not a media company, if you don't know how to share your story, how to defend yourself, other company will wipe feet over you. And this is exactly what's happening here, because insurance companies have money on lawyers. They have press releases, and trust me when I say it, when they win and you lose, they'll make it public. They'll make a case out of it. It's not going to be pretty. I mean, look at this guy. He's 28 and he should be brown and he's all gray hair. Added 10 years to his life. What happened next? So cease and desist letter. What happened next?
Yeah, they
It
send
gets
a
better.
yeah they send a so Supreme Court says that I go there. The Iowa Insurance Division sends out a cease and desist letter, cease and desist certain activities, um, public adjusting without a license. We're supposed to stop that. We're like, yeah, that's not that big of a deal.
Which is just removing some language from your contract. That's what it is.
From your contract, from your website, right?
Yep.
Um,
1 hour fix.
right, if that. So, but the sheriff, the deputy, it was served, right? It's a public matter of public record. So the sheriff delivers it, and the sheriff or the deputy, a person that works for Scott County Sheriff's Department, serves it to our office. Neither me nor my wife were at the office. Walks in, um, and says to our office staff, "Yeah, y'all got to shut your doors down."
And granted, you're like $10 million company
Or
more than
Yeah,
$15 million company.
whatever. So, so
Did your employees freak out?
of course, the girls in the office were absolutely freaking out, and they're calling my wife, and my wife is freaking out, and everybody's freaking out, and I'm like, we gotta
Calm down.
We gotta calm down. Like, let's read the order. So we read the order, and I'm like, it doesn't even say that. The lawyer reads it. Our lawyer, one of our good lawyers, not McGinn Law Firm.
We'll talk about
Right.
that in a second.
One of the lawyers that we trust for all of our regular business. He was like, listen, this is just, it'll be okay. Joe Van Voren's his name, Califf and Harper. He reads it and he's like, all right, well, we'll start to get to work on it. But that this does not mean what they said that it means. Well, then, whether it was a competitor or an insurance agent, people got to understand that the insurance community is a big one, and like, they're well connected, and they absolutely gossip and talk, and they absolutely go to war. I mean, they will, if they want to ruin you, they can. And maybe not in the Twin Cities, but there's a certain market size where they can ruin you. And I would say probably now with media what it is, that that nobody is untouchable. And so we were getting, there were insurance agents in the town emailing all of their customers saying, hey, we know there was a storm, don't use 33 Carpenters Construction, be wary of 33 Carpenters Construction. It was pretty it was
nasty.
It was dirty pool. It was wrong. So anyway,
let's talk about the claim itself. So what happens? Like, why did you lose it? Like, let's talk about losing the claim, because you did not do nothing wrong. Like, for those of you who know, there was a $40,000 claim. They were asking for 77,000. What was the items that you were asking, and insurance company was denying?
Yeah, well, we were asking for fascia and soffit on a metal siding job, aluminum siding that had, fascia and soffit installed over the top of it. You have to remove that top piece of siding. So in order to do that, you got to remove the fascia, remove the soffit, remove the gutters. Iowa has a line of sight code similar to Minnesota's matching code. And so we had that. The insurance company never did pay any overhead and profit. They were not paying for the rear of the home to be resided initially. Ultimately, they came to the table with much of what we were asking for. No overhead and profit, of course.
And this actually, we have a question here from Randy Watson. Define overhead and profit. Can you explain to those who don't know what overhead and profit means and why contractors are asking for it?
Well, overhead is the cost of doing business. It's the money that you have to collect beyond your cost of goods sold in order to stay operational. And profit is the money that you have to, that every business needs to pay themselves to motivate them to continue to encounter the cost of the goods
We
that
are
you
in
should.
this business for profit.
That's right.
Go figure. Insurance companies are doing it for profit. We can do it for profit too. We're not just You're not just moving paperwork. You're not just collecting money from here. I see so many guys. All you guys count is money for labor and money for materials. Well, business is way more complicated than that. And many contractors don't know their overhead and profit. And guys, you need to figure it out. And insurance company owes it to you. By the way, even if you do retail, you still have to charge you overhead and profit. You have to build it in your price.
If you do a job that costs you $20,000, 10,000 for material, 10,000 in labor,
Mhm.
you should not be you should not be estimating the cost of the customer for anything less than 40. I mean,
So how do you calculate it? You told me
that's
earlier.
simple. That right there was simple. But I mean, at the so you're either your cost of goods sold times a range of 1.65 to 2.1, or you are your cost of goods sold plus overhead if you know it. Like, and you should know it. You should know what your overhead
And
is.
overhead usually it's about 10%. So if you're on $5 million company, your overhead probably gonna be $500,000 a year. So and it has to come from your jobs.
Our overhead is way more than that. Our I mean, again, but here's the thing. Like, when you go and you start defending yourself, because I look at what I did as defending my company and my family. I don't look at it as an aggressive action. I looked at it as a certain point in time after the insurance company continually telling us no, 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 no. I don't care if you did it. I don't care if we owe for it. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. At some point in time, I had to either find something else to do or say, I'm not going to continue to let you spend my money on your for your responsibility, right? I'm not even saying you got to pay for this. I'm just saying I can't pay for this. It's not my responsibility to improve the quality of your customer's home after a storm, right? And it's not my burden to bear. It was theirs.
Absolutely. But it wasn't your first rodeo uh, as well. So how many times have you sued insurance company and settled in some way, shape, or form before this case?
Most of our litigious action ended in appraisal. So the insurance company knew that um, we were likely going to set good precedent with case law, and so and or they optics were bad for them, right? There was something that they didn't like. Insurance companies manage risk. That's what they do. So in every other scenario before then, the what made the most sense to the insurance company was to go to appraisal. They paid us, you know, as much as or more than we were asking for in
Mhm.
appraisal, but in doing so, they avoided the courtroom. But, you know, 40 or more times leading up to that, all of those victories that we were getting were just leading to them building their case. You know that all of the insurance companies share information, all of them,
Mhm.
right? You would be
I wish
foolish.
we would be doing that.
Yeah,
Imagine if all contractors share information.
it would be foolish to think that last year this home was insured by State Farm. They sell the house this year; it's insured by USAA. Last year it had a storm. This year the person calls it in and they say, "Oh yeah, but the damage from you haven't fixed the damage from last year. I can't pay you on this claim." Right? That happens, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Of course, right? Right. So they share that information, but they don't share any other information. They share all their information. They share all. I mean,
absolutely. I want to address a couple of questions here. First of all, Shane McGuire says, I want to ask questions, but I'm afraid. Shane, do not be afraid. We'll love you. You can ask any questions of any complexity. Don't ask me if you don't like my answers. Maybe ask Austin direct. We'll answer questions today. I have a regular client here, subscriber. I got lucky. Liberty Mutual had an inspector look at my 18-year-old organic shingle roof. One shingle flew off and they agreed to replace my entire roof. Liberty Mutual already gave me first check. Well, what I want to say to that, just because they gave you your check and they approved it does not mean that it will be final. As a matter of fact, you usually insurance company shortens that initial check by about 30-40%. That's country standard. That's average among all states. It could be bigger, it could be smaller. So if you just depending who you hire, you might find contractors who will take the check and say, "I'll do the work for it." You can find insurance restoration company who will have supplementer on staff who will look at it because insurance companies are known for missing stuff as well, and will give balance when job is completed. So before you settle, just don't take insurance word for it. That's my advice to you. Make sure you consult with the roofer. If your roofer asks for more, like your insurance company owes to what it actually takes. Like for example, it's organic roof. Maybe it was leaking. Maybe you have rotted deck. Like if it needs extra $2,000-3,000, it should not come from you. It should come from insurance company. Let your contractor to deal with the insurance company and make them accountable to pay the claim properly. Ethan, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that much like if you're gonna have a heart surgery done, right? Like, I'm gonna go find the best heart surgeon I can find
Mm-hmm.
to change my heart. That's what I'm gonna do.
Great analogy.
The best heart surgeon I can find.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna have something work done on my house, I typically make the decision the same way, or I'm dumb. I'm a dummy and I do it myself.
You're not going to get three estimates to replace your heart and just because the insurance company told you that. And you're definitely not going to go like if your insurance company say, well, we're going to pay $180,000 to replace your heart. What does it cost? Is it 180? What if they find that heart, I don't know, in an accident in Canada, they have to fly it in or something? I mean, who knows? But price is the price, and every job is different.
And the insurance company doesn't set the price.
They don't.
The surgeon, right? The doctor that's changing my heart tells me how much, and they don't even tell me. They never tell me. They never give me an estimate for my heart surgery.
You wish we would be treated just like other industries treated. Like when you get in a car accident, you drop your car, you don't get involved with a claim. That shop have your car, have to fix it the way it was before so you can drive it safely, and they remove you from the claim. And the same with the doctors. Like you go to the hospital, you're sick, they have to fix you, get you back on the road, and then insurance company will deal with the hospital. Well, with us, it's like this. Oh, we already paid for it. No, you didn't. You did it initial estimate. I mean, I think I talked to someone at the hospitals and they say usually they settle for about 80-85% of when you give birth, like for those babies, 85%. So insurance companies, same, just like in the roofing, they always ask for more, but hospitals usually get 80-85% of their bills. I mean, every woman is different who's given birth to that baby. So you cannot say, oh, okay, $15,000 is the price to have a baby. Well, one might have more medicine than another. One might have epidural, another one will not. Same goes with the contractors. We're all different expertise. We have another question here. Randy Watson keep asking about overhead and profit. How does that differ in the labor line item on adjuster's estimate? So he's referring to labor items on insurance estimate. So insurance company will pay you for labor, but they will try to trick you. They will try to trick you when they identify waste, when they identify labor. Everything is a little bit misleading. You have to do it full time to understand it. You have to be expert in that field. Just because they say, hey, we are paying for that labor, does not mean they pay for that labor. For example, a lot of times insurance company will pay you less to remove shingles than to install shingles, and they will argue that it's cheaper. Well, what's the last time you've seen two different crews on the same roof? It's usually the same. Or they will say, well, we include hip and reach here in a waist. Or they will say hip and reach shingles cost the same as regular shingles. Or they will not pay you for starter shingle. I mean, if you follow manufacturer instructions, all those little items that will add 1, 2, 3 grand per your job, because you have to be professional. They have to be professional, but you have to do this for a living. Uh, Shane McGuire, never ask for a 5-star review. Shane, you don't ask for 5-star review. You ask for review and you get 5 stars. Hopefully. But but if you don't ask for reviews, complaints will come your way. The thing is, they say if you do a good job, they will tell 3 people about it. If you do a bad job, they will tell 20. That's the reality. People love to complain, but they don't love to praise. You'll do an amazing job, and if you ask for a review, you'll get it. If you don't, people not always will leave you on. But if you do bad job, they just come in your way. That's the point. That's what I was trying to say. Confession: second generation independent insurance agency principal here. So you've been hiding.
Read the next one.
Second, most insurance companies are these people.
They
Love it.
know it. They know it, man. Like if you want to like, I've done a lot of research. Like I so Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin was the first person to sell insurance in the United States.
Oh
In
wow,
yeah,
I did
right.
not know that.
Yeah, before the United States was a country, Benjamin Franklin was selling insurance here.
Oh wow.
And so go 100 years earlier, Lloyd's Coffee House opens in London, right? Okay, and I'm like, all right, well that must be how far back it goes, right? So I'm like, I'm surfing the web, and I'm like, they were selling insurance before Christ, like before the current era, they were selling insurance. People like really need to understand like this insurance thing, right? Like they've been studying human behavior for over 1,000 years.
Absolutely.
For over 1,000 years. I mean,
Just like bankers, just like the people who deal with capital. Uh, on that note, like recently I was watching a couple of documentaries about masons, and I'm telling you this: roofers right now, we're like masons. Like who are masons? So masons is were guys who are building cathedrals and working with brick. The thing is, they were why did they have money and influence? Because if you think about mid-centuries, to build a church, you need a lot of materials, you need a lot of capital, you need a lot of labor. So they were pretty much general contractors, brick masons, right, at the time, and they had all this capital. They were influenced, so they start collaborating, and their capital allowed them to influence politicians and stuff like that. And that's what roofers can do today. Roofers have more money than any other trade. If we unite, if we get together, we can become new masons. And what I mean by that, we can start fighting insurance companies together. We can start influencing other industries. We can unite. Look at HVAC guys. They're united. Look at plumbers. They're united. And what's the result of it? They can say, well, we're not going to look at any HVAC units. We're not going to come out unless you pay us up front, right? What do roofers do? Free inspection. This guy does free repairs because we do free repairs to earn business. We do free work. Like we put our money, we spent money to make money. I mean, what do we do for insurance jobs? We pay deductibles. I mean, unthinkable. We do unthinkable to earn people's business. Why? Because we're not united, and we're all trying to cannibalize our industry. Like, this case right here. If this guy is in the news, I'm calling him out immediately, and we should call out bad practices, but we also should back each other up when someone gets bullied, when someone like this guy. I mean, my heart goes just. You will see the content. I mean, we're gonna do press release on this story because the story is just not fair. And granted, insurance company did not sue him; he sued insurance company. So give me one reason why you lost this case. Number one reason. I want
poor
people to hear that.
poor representation,
Bad lawyer.
bad lawyer. But again, insurance companies are in the business of calculating risk, right? So believe that when
Do,
they're
do, do, do you feel like? Sorry to interrupt. Do
no
you
problem.
feel like you showed up in a gunfight with a knife?
Yeah, and I wasn't even able to show up. I had to send out a guy who said he would bring a gun, but end up showing up with a knife. He, yeah, it was just really poor representation. It was poor representation. Um,
And it cost you your reputation at the end.
it cost us our reputation. It cost us financially. It's cost us, you know, they're. I have 4 children and a wife, right? So like,
Stress.
It's already right. It's already chaotic running a business with your wife. A small business is a difficult thing to do with family, and so things have been just rough. I mean, it's just granted we were we had an office in Indiana and an office in Chicago, so like we they didn't take us out, but if all of my eggs were in that basket, it may have, and that's it wasn't even that it was unfair. It is it's super important that you understand that there are not good lawyers, there are not good bankers, there are great roofers, there are great doctors, there are great bankers, there are great attorneys. I have some. Like we all need to have good people on our
Absolutely.
team, right? Like my sales staff, the people who work in my office. We know great people and we associate with them regularly. Do not don't like you just said it. Don't go to a gunfight with a knife. Like we were just
Be prepared. Those insurance companies, they'll use absolutely everything against you. He's a walking proof of it, unfortunately. But we guys, we can stand united. I want to finish on this note here. Randy says, Dimitri, let's start a secret society. And I agree, we already started it, guys. Roofing Insights is the voice of roofing communities. And I believe we started something to go join roofing school. We have tons of contractors. We're going to be in Pennsylvania tomorrow. Guys, I invite everyone, come to one of our classes, become friends with the local guys in your town. Be friendly to your competition. Don't eat your competitors for breakfast. I mean, I'm guilty of that. I'm so competitive that for years I would keep 4 or 5 guys close to me in my market, but I would not collaborate with other roofers. And I think it was a mistake. Looking back, how I started into this business in 2013, 14, it was a mistake. I would be way further ahead in life if I would learn from my competition early on. I mean, have abundance mentality. The market is big. Look at what insurance companies are doing. I mean, insurance companies use the same third parties. They all know it. They all give the claims to the same companies. They hire the same management companies to tell them how to do their business. They have the same policies. They have the same practices. We can do the same thing. Do what works. Collaborate with guys who are very successful. If you struggling with this business, find someone who does it well. Go and learn from them. So, lastly, we have a YouTube video that I would like everyone to watch. If you're considering yourself as a good contractor, it's video is trending today, and I need your help. I rarely ask for favors, but today I do. I did this video today: 7 sales gimmicks that roofing contractors do, and there's big debate about 2 items. I don't believe you can be a good roofing contractor if you don't offer repairs, and also if you don't leave estimates in the house. A lot of guys who actually kicked someone out, away from directory just a couple of days ago just because they would not leave estimate. They're like, here's my price, do business with me today, but I'm not going to leave the homeowner ask twice. And I don't think it's right. But if you don't agree with you, I want to see how many people out there agree with it or disagree. Maybe I'm behind. Maybe I have to rethink about my code of ethics. Maybe I call something wrong when it's not wrong. Go watch that video. It's the latest video from Roofing Insights. A lot of homeowners will see it, and I will let you self promote your business. So if you watch it, there's a 7 shady things on my list. If you agree with them, comment your company, your name, and say, hey, my name is, my company is, I serve Pennsylvania, Dallas, whatever the market is, and share your number information. You'll get some business out of it, I promise you, because thousands of homeowners will see it. If you don't agree with that, it's totally fine. You can be my best friend. I have a thick skin. I will listen to you. We'll have healthy discussion. Hopefully, just don't call me, names because we have different opinions. I'll respect your opinion. You respect mine. Let's have conversation about it. We need to elevate our industry. Austin did amazing interview. I did not want to spoil the interview by talking too much today, but I wanted you to have opportunity to ask him some questions. Guy flew in from Iowa to share the story. It's a heartbreaking story. Like this guy been ran over by a truck, and he's a good guy in the industry. He did not have homeowners suing him. He did not have complaints. He was doing everything right. He fought the good fight and he lost. And sometimes he will lose. You're not gonna win every battle in this business. I did not win every battle in my business. I have my legal actions right now. I don't know what overcome will be. I need your support. I need you to support guys like Austin. Thank you guys so much for coming. Wait for the interview. By the end of the week, we'll publish it. Stay tuned. Thank you for your attention, guys. So, Shane McGuire says, driving to Connecticut because I'm shady. Well, refer to last video. And I appreciate your feedback, Shane. I do see your comments. I reply to your comments as well. All right, guys. Thank you so much for your attention today. I'll see you later.